Welcome. You're listening to Mortal Giants, a podcast about the fragility of power in the 21st century.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
I'm Sandy Garosino.
And I'm Veena Najibullah.
Veena Najibullah is a Soviet-born, Afghan-raised Canadian international affairs expert.
We need to take a step back and really see China as a rising superpower that wants to have influence first and foremost in its own region, so in the Indo-Pacific or Asia-Pacific, and then also more globally.
With long personal and professional experience in conflict zones around the world.
Well, I don't know if we haven't been paying attention to this, but an issue that we should really be thinking about here in Canada is Arctic sovereignty and China's ambitions in the Arctic.
We're grateful to Canada's National Observer for hosting this podcast.
The situation recently was aggravated, and Great Britain and France feared more and more that Egyptian policies threatened their lifeline of the Suez Canal.
Sometimes great powers are like impregnable fortresses, unchanging and unrivaled over centuries, timeless. Or at least they were. Roughly 7 great empires entered the 20th century. The British Empire.
But Britain is not saying goodbye to Hong Kong.
Imperial Russia, the Qing dynasty, the Ottoman Empire, the Kingdom of Prussia, the French colonial empire, and the Empire of Japan.
Japan has today surrendered. The last of our enemies is laid low.
All of them had ruled for centuries. Almost none of them survived the Second World War, and none made it to the year 2000. And now, change has only accelerated. Veena and I came upon the idea of this podcast while watching the fallout of Russia's invasion of Ukraine and the calculated global repositioning as major powers like China, India, and the Global South jockeyed in pursuit of their own interests. After almost a century of post-war prosperity and unrivaled American power, we've entered a new era. Growing uncertainty and realignment as many of the world's nations now seek to challenge that dominance.
But in today's more polarized geopolitical world, the BRICS Club has become more significant for its members. Some, like Russia, believe it presents a way to forge a new world order, one with less U.S. control.
If the world is changing at a dizzying pace, the forces driving that change are markedly different than they were a century ago. At the beginning of the 20th century, some 40% of American workers were farm laborers. Today, just 2% of the labor market produces vastly more food than 100 years ago. It took 300 years to get from the Gutenberg press to the mechanization in textile production that sparked the first industrial revolution. And only another 150 years to get to Kitty Hawk.
Calls the first flight of this primitive biplane making aviation history.
And then things really started to speed up. The bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki with nuclear weapons came just 42 years after the first manned flight, and the moon landing just 24 years after that.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
And yet obscured from public view has been the development of large-scale weapon systems and military innovations that, for instance, were essential to America's global dominance and the development of the computing innovations and internet that power the global economy today. Yet America's influence is shrinking. It no longer holds a monopoly over weapon system development, or technology, or manufacturing, or even its own media and communication. And its democratic institutions are straining under unprecedented pressure, including from the outside. And the race for American dominance in the development of artificial intelligence by just a tiny handful of tech billionaires has seemed to put us all on yet an even more perilous path.
It is the most powerful country.
The Ukrainian Peace Summit is underway in
tonight. The case against Frank's.
Rather than reacting to the daily fire hose of news, Veena and I wanted to look at the deeper structural forces that will shape the outcome of this era of global competition and confrontation.
He's been arbitrarily detained, and now we see that...
Most of you know Veena Najibullah from her years advocating for her former husband, Michael Kovrig, while the two Michaels were imprisoned by the Chinese government in reprisal for the Meng Wanzhou extradition process. A citizen of Canada, Veena was born in the Soviet Union, raised in Afghanistan, and educated in the U.S. She has long experience in conflict zones and more than 2 decades experience in high-level diplomacy and political risk analysis. From war zones to boardrooms, she has worked with the UN, national governments and international NGOs in Canada, the US, China, Africa, and Central Asia. She speaks Russian, Farsi, and Mandarin Chinese. Veena is adjunct professor at the School of Public Policy and Global Affairs at the University of British Columbia and currently is Vice President of Research and Strategy at Canada's Asia Pacific Foundation. We're so honored and fortunate that she has joined us to give her views on some of the key issues that will shape our future.
This session is adjourned.
I'm Sandy Garasino, former trial lawyer, and have been national affairs columnist with Canada's National Observer. In this, our first season, we're going to look at the impact of China in the years ahead. We will look at China's astonishing progress in new energy technologies, battery innovation, and EV production, as well as its conflict with American power over semiconductors and microchips, and the geopolitical significance of Taiwan. And we will look at the transformative force, for better or worse, of one single man, Xi Jinping, President of the People's Republic of China.
碰得头破血流。
This has been a Teeny Turner production in collaboration with Canada's National Observer. It was researched, written, hosted, and produced by me, Sandy Garasino, and Eric Chapman. Editing, sound design, and engineering by Eric Chapman, with special thanks to Sandra Bartlett and Linda Solomon of Canada's National Observer. Please subscribe and share on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen. Tell your friends and give us a rating. That's how we build an audience. And why not subscribe to Canada's National Observer? That way you won't miss a thing.